but we are lucky enough to have Adam Derrick, who's been a Jamf field sales engineer for the last 5 years. And we also have Dave Goldberg, who is a desktop engineer at Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. I know Adam focuses on uh, the app installer side of things, along with many other roles at Jamf, but he's representing Jamf on this one. And then Dave is a power user of app installers. So with that, try not to steal any thunder. I will kick it over to y'all.
Awesome.
Thank you very
Good afternoon, everybody. Adam Derrick here
much.
with Jamf.
Dave Goldberg here, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey.
So yeah, Dave and I are here to talk with you all today to talk about Jamf App Installers. Uh, you know, it's assumed that pretty much everybody in the room knows what Jamf App Installers are, but we just wanted to take time today, thanks to the Rock and Van team, for allowing us to join and kind of discuss some of the nuts and bolts beneath how everything works. Um, some common pain points in packaging, deploying applications, talk through some of the applications that are available in the Jamf App Catalog, and then also some limitations that are currently there today. And then really, reason I brought David here was because David uses this in his enterprise. Would love for David to discuss how he's adapted Jamf App Installers and how they've helped him, as well as some other things that he's doing for applications that are not currently in the Jamf App Catalog. Anybody love this graphic?
There's always a few. There's always a few that do.
So, I mean, packaging has always been super time consuming. Very limited ability to update when we're creating policies in Jamf Pro with packages. If we're not provided with a package, we got to use a tool like Composer to go ahead and get that package into a usable state. Then we got to upload it to our distribution point. We got to deal with that. And then, next thing you know, tomorrow a new version of Google Chrome becomes available and we got to do it all over again. Dave, you want to talk a little bit more about some of your common pain points?
Yeah. For me, I was not one that loved packaging. There were just too many pain points in it, as Adam just said. 6, 7 years ago, when you had an Adobe packages or Adobe Creative Cloud, you actually had to repackage that. And some other vendors had some very Mac unfriendly installers. And that was very, very, very time consuming. And as Adam said, any type of patch management whatsoever, we were doing the exact same thing. So it was very time consuming and at times very soul crushing. Fortunately, even today, most vendors, no matter how unfriendly they are to Mac and Apple, generally have a package that you can just upload directly to your distribution system and down it goes. Very rarely do we have to actually repackage anything. But the same pain points apply. I mean, no patch management at all. And you're dependent upon getting the latest installer and making sure that that package is correct.
Yeah, and it's super distracting. I mean, we all as Mac admins and just IT admins in general, we're all wearing multiple hats. We don't have the time in the day to be repackaging. At least prior to working at Jamf when I was a Mac admin, that was just like 1/10 of my job. So yeah, this is something I wish that would have existed back when I was a customer. But happy that it does exist. It's still something that I saw some people comment in the chat that uh, they wish it would be a little bit more mature and a little bit more robust, and we'll certainly talk about that a little bit as well. One thing I
Mature is a perfect word. Mature is an absolutely perfect word. They are still kind of in the toddler stage, I would say.
Yeah. And today we're just under 200 applications. So a little under 2 years ago, when we initially launched the Jamf App Catalog, we started out initially with like 10 applications. So we are slowly growing, and we'll talk how does a piece of software actually make it into that Jamf App Catalog here in just a few moments. But right now, today, as we speak, we're a little bit under 200 applications. Cool. So, some common deployment methods that are already being used today, packages, the App Store works great, but we all know that, especially, on the Mac side of the house, not every single application is a Mac app in the App Store. So some very common examples: Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, Microsoft Teams, the Adobe Suite, Microsoft Defender. They are not applications that are available in Apple's App Store. So we either need to upload a package, or we need to go ahead and use a third-party tool to go ahead and get those applications up to date. Dave?
And prior to app installers, we're going to go through this pretty quickly since most of you've all done this and are on the app catalog. So we'd have to go to a friendly cloud, we hope, and then we'd have to grab an installer, and hopefully the package is indeed lovely. If it is, we can continue to upload it, but if not, we would have to repackage it to make it Jamf friendly. And then once with Jamf package is friendly, then we go and send it up to our mothership of Jamf Pro. And then we would have to then create a policy and scope out those endpoints that we want. And then down it goes to the endpoints. And that is, 6 steps, at least 6 steps that we're showing here. It could be more. Minimum of 6 steps that you'd have to do, and a lot of time consuming, getting the package and then uploading it to the distribution point and then back down. That's a lot of time spent. With app installers, we just go to the mothership, and we go to the mothership goes directly to the vendor endpoint and negotiates whatever installer they're going to get. It brings it down to the mothership, which gets the package. And then once we create that repository and scope it out, and we'll talk about scoping because it's not very apparent to a lot of people, we eventually gets to our fabulous endpoint. And so you're only doing basically one thing. I mean, Adam's going to go and take all these things away, but you're basically creating just a repository and who you're scoping it to, and that is it. No repackaging, no searching for a package, no waiting for it to upload, none of that. All of that goes away.
What's pretty cool, I'll just chime in here a bit. I was just on with a very large dental organization yesterday, and we were kind of going through an executive business review with some of their stakeholders, and we were discussing a lot of what they accomplished in the last year. And a very large project was deploying parallels, and using the Jamf App Catalog to go ahead and deploy parallels, something that was very time consuming. Previously, they were able to go ahead and deploy it down to a couple thousand computers, and I'm quoting the customer, in under 90 seconds. Um, so a very large undertaking that the Jamf App Catalog was certainly able to help them with. I'm sure a lot of people are probably wondering, like, hey, how comes, the Jamf App Catalog has under 200 apps today, but if I go into the Jamf patch management uh, portion of Jamf Pro, there's 2,000 software titles in there. And that's a journey that Jamf is definitely exploring. I think everybody who is inside of Jamf knows that with the launch of Jamf Pro 11, we're seeing a lot of UI tweaks and a lot of new features and functionalities that were released at JNUC, that are starting to come into the UI. Even since the Jamf App Catalog was initially introduced, over on the left pane, you now have what we call Mac apps. And inside of Mac apps, you have two options. You have the Jamf App Catalog, and then you have the App Store applications as well. So what does it look like in order to get an application added into the Jamf App Catalog? It's actually a little bit of a process. First and foremost, there needs to be a handshake. There needs to be a partnership going on between Jamf and a software vendor. Because essentially what's going to happen is we are going to go ahead and source that package from the app vendor. So we need to have that partnership in place so that way we could go ahead and grab the package. Now, one thing, we don't just go ahead and grab the package. We want to make sure that what you're deploying is secure. So we will actually, number one, like ensure compatibility. So, there's still a lot of Intel Macs out there. So we want to make sure that the package is universal, that it will work on both an Intel as well as an Apple Silicon Mac. But we will go ahead and repackage that third-party app for you on your behalf. We'll go ahead and code sign it. And then we'll actually go ahead and monitor that specific package, making sure that it's secure. We want to make sure that we're not deploying anything malicious, even though, anybody who is in the Jamf App Catalog is a trusted and vetted partner. We still take security pretty seriously. So we take several several steps behind the scenes to validate the integrity of that package before we go ahead and deploy it. So you might see a new version of your favorite piece of software like Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge come out. And typically, we have that updated in the app catalog within a couple hours for you to go ahead and deploy. It's not going to be instantaneous, but our team does a fantastic job at making sure that it is in there within 24 hours, but typically it's within a couple hours. So that's kind of what the process looks like. You'll see here in a couple more slides, if there is an application that does not exist today, what can you do?
Feature request. Feature request.
Feature request.
Feature request.
Yeah. You're going to hear that come out of my mouth and out of Dave's mouth a lot. We heard it prior to the presentation. But about a year ago, Jamf switched over to a different platform for feature requests. So feature requests are no longer hosted on Jamf Nation. We use a tool called AHA. So if you go to ideas.jamf.com, it requires a Jamf ID, but you can actually go in there and you could search and you could filter out specific feature requests. You could upvote those feature requests. You could even add your comments in there. And that's something huge. So if you have an application that you want to be in the Jamf App Catalog that does not exist today, go ahead and go to ideas.jamf.com. Take a look and see if there is a feature request for that application today. If there is, go ahead and upvote it and add a comment. If there isn't, go ahead and make a new feature request. It only takes a minute, and be sure to share that with other members of the community. So most importantly, they can upvote it, and they can also go ahead and add any kind of comments. The more information that we have in a feature request, when that goes through reviews with our product team or with specific teams within Jamf that are working on adding new features into Jamf Pro, or maybe the team that's looking at adding new applications into the app catalog, when we could actually have that data that's inside of that feature request and say, hey, we have 200 customers that are looking for this specific application. They want this application in the app catalog because it's going to help them to solve XYZ problem, and we have the demand for it right here. That makes it really easy to kind of take that and form that partnership that we were talking about with the app vendor. So some of you might be asking, like, anybody who's new, to being a Mac admin, how comes we're not just using Apple's App Store? And again, we kind of discussed that previously. Not all applications are available, especially on the Mac App Store. There's no notification customization, there's no deferment, and it requires a VPP token. And if you don't have one of them, then somebody's going to have to sign in with an Apple ID, and we all love Apple IDs.
I think that everybody here, I don't know, there's over 100 of us now. I don't think anybody here will disagree with me when I say that the VPP process is very painful at times. Very, very painful.
You might be wondering, we mentioned we have a little under 200 applications. So what kind of applications are we talking about, Dave?
Well, I used to be a graphic designer in a former life, so Adam's going to go through these logos very quickly, but these are some of the vendors. When we first created this back in when the hell, back in July, so there was about 25 or 30 that we haven't gotten just yet that were after the fact. But as you could see, a lot of these logos, a lot of these apps, you could go and see all of them. Most of them, and this is just a visual representation of just how big the catalog is. And it's growing every single day. It's going to be over 200 before we know it.
Something that we hear quite often, and even myself in my role as a sales engineer at Jamf, I work with prospective customers that are looking to use Jamf, but then I also work with current customers. So, many of you, I help to manage your account. And when we do have business reviews and when we have meetings, I'll bring up the app catalog and, hey, are you using the app catalog today? And usually one of the responses that I hear and some of the survey results that I've seen there as well is, took a look at it, but we haven't really gone any further than that. And there's many reasons behind that. But hopefully, by the end of this meeting here today, hopefully you could go home with some stuff to be able to test in your dev or sandbox. Because I'm pretty sure that if you would take a look at that list, there's definitely probably at a minimum 5 applications that you're deploying down
Easily.
to your computers that either, hey, maybe you want to continue deploying them through a policy, but maybe you want the Jamf App Catalog to go ahead and update and patch those applications and keep them up to date for you. Dave, just curious, how many applications are you deploying over at Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey?
Oh, hundreds of apps. Hundreds of apps. And I would say 70 to 75% of the apps that I install are now in the app catalog. It has saved me days, if not weeks of time, being able to use the app catalog, being able to know that for the majority of those apps, not all of them, we can do an auto update, or we can set up test groups for updates and just update that particular group. But all of that time looking for updates and patches and everything. When Adam, when did Jamf buy Mondada and Kenobi?
Geez, that was probably about two and a half years ago. We made several
Okay,
acquisitions, but yeah, I think about 2.5 years ago.
so the app catalog came out 2 years ago, and I can tell you for those 6 months that they purchased, we badgered everybody at Jamf for this catalog. Okay, we badgered and badgered and badgered. All right, because finally, after years of working with Jamf Pro, we're finally going to have a real patch management system. Some of us used Mondada and Kenobi in the past, so we were very excited and we were very impatient, let's just say. This has saved so much time and so much productivity using this app catalog, and it is also one of the key elements of Jamf Pro that just that is a that ends the conversation if you have other MDMs approaching or encroaching.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody has somebody within their organization going, hey, why do we need Jamf when we have, Intune? We get Intune for free. Um,
You
there is
don't
no
get it for free. You don't get it for free. It's not a
there is no
salad
app
with the boot.
catalog with Intune.
Yeah.
Cool. And thanks for sharing that, Dave. And I think some people might also be wondering, like, how's the user experience been since migrating from your old processes over to utilizing the Jamf App Catalog?
Well, we're going to get to some of the feature requests soon, but there is very little end user participation at all. We don't use self-service as of yet. We will eventually once we get it automated with our snow system. So we have everything from the app app installer is just coming down automatically. The end user does not even know it's coming. They're all of a sudden the app will just appear in their applications folder. And once it does, they are free to start using it. That is it. There are no notifications, there are no approvals, there's nothing for the end user to do.
So theoretically, if somebody came up to you today, Dave, like your boss, and they were like, "Hey, we're looking to go ahead and deploy Defender to all of our computers," theoretically, like what would that process look like?
Well, the process would be fairly easy in terms of setting it up. We would make sure that we would scope it out appropriately. We're going to get into how to scope app installers because, like I said before, it is not apparent, easily apparent to all of us. It certainly wasn't to me when I started. We would get the appropriate smart group, and then we would just, in our case, we would just do it automatically. We would just deploy to that group, and then we would just watch it come down in the deployment panel. It's as simple as that.
Awesome. So, you know,
Here's
pretty simple to deploy, but there definitely there's definitely some limitations with the Jamf App Catalog. A lot of the limitations are starting to slowly trickle off and trickle away. Specifically, like when the Jamf App Catalog was initially introduced, there was no way for you to customize whether or not you wanted to manually hold off on updating. So maybe you wanted the app catalog to go ahead and push the app, but you didn't want it to auto patch. Believe it or not, there's some people out there who don't want applications to auto patch. So that information, you now have that ability to go ahead and choose that when you are distributing. Any applications through the Jamf App Catalog, you certainly can go ahead and choose whether or not you want that to auto patch or if you want to patch manually. Some other things that have been added, you could attach configuration profiles, as well as you could customize the notification experience. And we'll get to the demo here in just a few moments. You'll be able to see how we could go ahead and customize what we want the experience to be like for the end user. That way, their application doesn't just force quit on them and then they're blaming you for losing work. We could make sure that we provide them with plenty of notifications in order to get the application up to date. Dave, how about you take it and talk about some of your experience with some of the limitations here?
What I had to remember first was, this is not a policy. This is not an SCCM where, it drops the package into a temp file and then it runs whatever package and scripts like a task sequence, or as Jamf calls it, a policy. These are managed commands. Now, managed commands are going away and being replaced with declarative statements, DDM. So there's a limit to what they can do. So, however, that limitation can be very frustrating. You're going to see the demo in a second, where there's really only three things it could say. It could say in progress. It can say completed, or it can say the machine is unqualified, meaning that you have an app that can't be updated or can't be installed on the machine. That's it. There's no logs that we could use. There's no progress bar. There's none of that. So it is very, very difficult to troubleshoot it. It is very difficult to kind of plan how long it's going to take because and the key bullet point, and Adam cleaned up the last line here. How long will this take? I had a couple of spicy words in there. I don't know how long it's going to take. To be honest, I've had it take 20 minutes. I've had it take 4 hours. I've had it take 2 days. Okay, now part of it is out of our control. It's out of Jamf's control. It's whenever the endpoint of the vendor, the data center, or whatever is hosting that, wants to respond. We hope that the relationship is so good that it'll respond immediately. You text someone, they text you back in 10 seconds. That's not always the case. There are times it can take just very, very, very long. And it's hard to plan for that. It's hard to schedule that. When we're enrolling machines and onboarding them, we have to basically give about 4 to 5 hours to make sure that all of the app catalog items that we have in the scope come down. And also, we don't have any scheduling right now. The only scheduling we can do kind of is, do we want to auto update? Do we want to manually update? And if so, we can scope them to test groups and that sort of thing. But other than that, there is no scheduling, which is a big problem. It's a big problem to have because it's one less piece of control that we don't have. So, and the last two things, the last two bullet points, Adam has really heard from me about this. The scoping mechanism is different, and Adam's going to show you that in the demo. When I first got the app catalog, I was one of those people that had the 10 apps. Like there was Google Chrome, I believe, Adam, and there was I forget, I don't know if Microsoft was on it yet, but I did 2 or 3, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. In a policy, you can send to an individual machine. You can send to a static group. Okay. There is no such thing in app installers. You have to basically create a static group of whatever machines you want assigned in there. And then you have to create a smart group that has the criteria. What is the name of, is a member of the computer group. So imagine if you want to scope to one machine, you have to create a static group, put that machine, assign that machine, save that, create a smart group, put the criteria in this computer group as a member of the computer group, and then choose that smart group when you in the repository to deploy. That is a lot of steps to do.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is not as apparent. And when you first use it, it's not very apparent that that's what you're going to have to do. But that's how it is right now. Believe me, we've sent lots of feature requests asking for this to be different. A lot more Mac admins are going to be using this, and we're all from a Jamf Pro policy SCCM task sequence environment. It is completely different. It is completely different, and there is some education, some learning. It's a big learning curve to use that. Once you get it, it's fine. Then you kind of know what to do, and it becomes old habits. The last limitation is no uninstallers. This is a big problem. It's a managed command, so the command is get the package and install the package. They should be able to reverse that and say uninstall that package, because when it's getting installed via app catalog, there are several places on the machine that have elements to that. And we're not exactly sure, how many elements are getting at this point. So we have put in lots of feature requests for uninstallers, because that would really save a lot of time when we have a problematic app and we need to uninstall or reinstall. And yes, I see in the chat it is. It's an odd design decision. But that's kind of how that's the inflexibility of managed commands. So but yeah, it is not an apparent or an ideal design plan, not in the least.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll throw in there with the scoping mechanism, so anybody who's been inside of Jamf and using Jamf, whether you're a beginner or you've been using it for years, you are so super familiar with that scope tab and being able to go into that scope tab and target a specific computer or target a specific smart group. Or if you're a Microsoft shop and you're using the Microsoft Entra integration, maybe you want to scope to a specific Entra, Azure, whatever you want to call it, group. That is just something that you can't do today. There is no scope tab, and you'll see here in just a few moments. But these are all things that, like, as Dave and I have been doing this presentation at Penn State Mac Admins and at JNUC and here at Rocketman, like, these are all things that I'm driving back to Jamf and letting Jamf know, hey, people are looking for this stuff. And, that's where those feature requests are so important. So please, 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 if you have not used the Jamf App Catalog or you have not adopted it fully because it doesn't do something, we want to know that. So please submit a feature request. Please upvote one another's feature requests. Post them into MacAdmin Slack. Let's get this to something that really at the end of the day, I'm sure a lot of people are having questions in their mind like, hey, where does the Jamf App Catalog marry in with patch management within Jamf Pro? And with Jamf Pro 11 and some of the UI tweaks and things like that, I think a lot of us are, hoping and have our fingers crossed that patch management along with the app catalog are going to be merged together, because today patch management within Jamf Pro, I kind of just refer to it as patch reporting. There's a lot of work involved in order to automate and have true patch management. The Jamf App Catalog does give you true patch management, but only with those 200 applications that we have as of today. So, I'd say if just taking a look at like the vision of what the Mac admins community wants, what a lot of us at Jamf want is to have patch management along with the app catalog kind of married together. And I think that would be the ultimate, end goal. So please
And,
definitely
and
submit those feature requests.
yeah, and to add to what Adam just said, the Mac admin community is very big, but very, very insular. And so nothing works in a vacuum here. So if you put in a feature request, and I have to remember to do this at times, make your Jamf SE known. Post it in Jamf Nation. Post it in Slack, in the Slack Mac admins. All right. And if you don't see a channel there, create a channel and post it there. And go to Jamf user groups and bring this up as well. And use those resources, because the more people know about this, the quicker this is going to get done.
So just going into a demo, what does this look like? Starting out here over on the left-hand side under computers, you'll see we have the newly branded Mac apps section here. And you'll see we have the Jamf App Catalog along with the App Store. In here, we could see any Jamf App Catalog titles, as well as their deployment status, the version, and their target group and update method all displayed here. If we want to add a new title, we're just going to simply come in here. We're going to select Jamf App Catalog, and then we're going to choose Next. From here, you could see the entire list. You could browse through, or up at the top, you can actually go ahead and search for a specific application. And if you just saw there's a lot of Adobe applications that are within the Jamf App Catalog.
And we're going to get to that after this. So go ahead, Adam.
So we're going to go ahead and deploy an app. And I just want to show you how easy it is. We're going to deploy Teams. So I searched for Teams. I'm going to go ahead and select Add here. You'll see we could modify the display name. We could choose our category that we want it displayed in within Jamf and self-service. The target group is your scope along with your distribution method. So do you want it to install automatically, or do you want it to be made available in self-service? And then below, you'll see your update method. So again, do you want the app catalog to automatically patch? I would hope so, but there's those applications that sometimes we don't want to auto patch. And then here you'll see the source URL, so where the package is coming from, when that package was published, bundle ID, all that fun stuff. And then this is my favorite area, the end user experience. So this is where you could come in and you could say, hey, I want to go ahead and nudge my user every 2 hours that they need to update Teams. And we're going to go ahead and give them 2 hours to go ahead and update it. You could customize the messaging in here. You can really make it a great experience for your end users. That way, nobody's coming up to you and saying, hey, you messed up my work that I was working on. But then once you have that once you have that app installer ready, you'll be able to see how many computers are qualified within your smart group or static group that you're deploying to. You'll be able to monitor the status. So you'll see here, I have 5 computers that it's currently in progress with. So you'll be able to have this information. I know a very highly requested feature of this is to be able to have this pinned to your dashboard within Jamf Pro. That's definitely something that we've been made aware of. Everybody loves their dashboards within Pro, and I could think of a number of things that I would like to have in there, but this is definitely one of those things that people would love to have within their dashboards. But yeah, as you saw there, I mean, really takes about 2 minutes for you to go ahead and get the app installer set up. So again, if you're not using this today, or it's been a while since you took a peek at the app catalog, definitely head on over jamf.it/software titles. That will create, sorry, that's a smart link that'll take you right to the latest page with all the different software titles that are part of the app catalog. Um, Also, every Jamf customer is entitled to a sandbox or dev environment. So if you don't have one, ping your customer success manager, ping your SE, tell them that you want a sandbox or a dev environment and test this out. Who knows, you might wind up loving it. Cool. Dave, you want to talk about your favorite subject?
Well, there's a few things that I want to add on. We talked about limitations before, and now we're going to talk about annoying limitations. And a lot of you have put that in the chat already. You can't scope to multiple groups. Okay, that is a serious problem or limitation. In order to push to multiple groups, you have to create multiple repositories. Now, sometimes that's a good thing because you have a little bit more control over your scope, but it would be a hell of a lot easier if you know which groups are going to want this app to be able to go and scope it to as many groups as we want. Okay. Um, so that's the one annoying limitation. And that includes, and again, it's not a policy, or it's not, we can't put exclusions in there like we can with policies. That doesn't exist right now. Um, the one great thing about the information in the repository is that link where they're getting the package. You can always test that link to make sure that your connections are okay. It almost always is. The second thing is the behavior between Jamf apps and the App Store, Mac apps, is very different. In the Mac apps, you can scope to static groups and smart groups. I don't. Can you scope to an individual machine, Adam, on
No.
Mac apps? No. So, but you can scope to static apps. That is and even that is progress. That helps a lot where you don't have to create an additional group to add to your scope. And finally, the last thing that we talk about, and I'm going to use the Adobe example. There are a few things with Adobe. Number one, until the relationship or whatever, Adobe is. I'm not saying anything you all don't know. It has never been easy to support Adobe with patch management. It has never been easy. Okay, it has been frustrating and sad for probably all of us. With the app catalog, you can get that now. As Adam said, it's not 24 hours normally. It's within 2 to 3 hours. I mean, it's very quick when we get that. But the problem with that is Adobe is only releasing the bare minimum app. So if you have plugins, if you have add-ons, that is not included in your in the app catalog at this time. We've made the feature requests and everything like that. It's not a Jamf thing. It's an Adobe thing. So for those of us that have to work on the Adobe console, if there's apps, I'm going to use an example of Adobe Premiere, Creative Cloud. They needed the English language pack, which does not come on the app catalog. And so those machines are not eligible then to use the app catalog. We would just have to create, download it, create the package with the add-ins, push it up there and send it down as a policy. We hope that as the relationships get better, that Adobe and other vendors will allow us a way to customize these installations. to better serve our end users. And also with auto updating, I've seen apps been auto updating with Adobe, which I hadn't seen before. The last 3 or 4 months, I've seen some of the apps auto update, but not all of them. And it's very haphazard. For a year after the app catalog came out, no Adobe apps were updated at all. The only way you could update your Adobe apps on a machine is to create another repository when that update came along that Jamf has, and you would create another repository and push it down. And the mechanism is smart enough to know that, oh, this machine already has it. We just need to push the update. So it's not, so it's not very time consuming in terms of.
Dave, did we lose you?
We got frozen Dave.
Yeah. Cool. Lots of good questions in the chat here. I know some people were asking for some of those links. I've been doing my best to respond to some of the questions here in the chat. So good stuff. I know that we got just a couple minutes left here.
One thing I'll say, Adam, this is Eric. Like we talked about yesterday, I know one of the goals that we have of this whole meetup is to be able to get that feedback from the community. I think it's an amazing thing that you're willing to put yourself on the hot seat, for lack of a better term, because one thing I love about our community is they are honest. They will tell you exactly how they feel about the tool. And so to be able to do that directly to Jamf, I think is huge. So make sure that, as we're giving this feedback, we're also following the best way that Adam's told us to get that feedback out there. So with those feature request links, so that when he goes back and can follow up and say, hey, I just did another meetup and we got this piece of feedback again, then there's that data that backs it up that says, and there's a feature request with all the upvotes. I know we're good at hitting those feature requests. But yeah, and I really appreciate our community for get that stuff out there. Is the only way that we improve is by being honest with each other. So I think that that's awesome. And then wherever Dave went, I know Dave was on a back-to-back and took this call rogue out in the wild. So who knows where he's posted up, what internet he got on for this. So we do only have a few minutes left. Adam, do you have anything else? I kind of took over there.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention, if anybody wants to get a hold of me, you could definitely go ahead and reach out on the Mac Admin Slack. My Slack handle is DERRAD. Feel free to reach out to me. My email address is adam.derrick with 2 R's at jamf.com. Feel free to shoot me an email. But yeah, certainly appreciate the team over at Rocket Man for having us here today. I hope that this was useful and beneficial for everybody. Absolutely, I'm going to be taking a look here at everything that came through in the chat. And I will be taking a look at those feature requests as they're coming in as well, and make sure that I meet with the team here internally at Jamf to let them know some of your concerns.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Adam.
You're welcome.
Great presentation. Thanks for joining us on here. And thank you to everyone for joining. Right before we end this meeting, I think we can share the link to register for next month. So I'll make sure we throw that in the chat. I'm kind of doing this blindly, but I'll drop that in there right. I think that's the right one. So feel free to register for next month's meetup. Thank you everyone for coming. Oh, hope everyone had a happy Halloween. Did anybody have the most hilarious, best costume that they can't get off this call without telling us about? I think that's how we'll spend our last 60 seconds.
And let me just jump in. My apologies. My Wi-Fi just all of a sudden stopped working. Now I'm on my hotspot. My apologies. Thank you.
Oh, David. Yeah, thank you for joining us. And great job hosting a presentation from wherever in the world you are and making this happen. So we really appreciate it, David. And I think that'll do it for this month's meetup. Thank you everyone for joining. I'll send out the meetup link for next month here in a couple weeks, but we'll also have that posted in the chat. Make sure you hit those feature requests so we can all work together to make App Installers as great as it can be. I know a lot of us already love the tool and use it in a lot of different ways. I saw a lot of that in the chat as well. Have a great week.
Thank you so much. thank you so much, Rocket Man, for allowing us to present. Thank you. This is a wonderful place to see everyone. So thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all. Y'all have a great
guys.
weekend.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We have new episodes on the first Friday of every month. If you'd like to join our session live, visit the link in the description to get on our mailing list. And if you're looking to get the most out of your Jamf server, visit rocketman.tech to set up a meeting with one of our Jamf experts. That's rocketman.tech.